Oh, this is Karen Philcott here with I can just put this in the background type thing. Nothing to look at. Just I rant about part 3 again. So yeah, ranting about JoJo again. So I'm going to admit I've started to like JoJo more. I don't think he deserves all the love that he gets, but he did become a decent character. The thing is, they didn't start his character development and exploring him until halfway through the freaking series in part 3. Like, seriously. What? Now, this is probably the first time they've actually been able to give a character development. Since part 1 was only 9 episodes and part 2 was a solid 17 episodes. But, like, the first 5 were setting up the rest of the 12 episodes. So, like in part 1, instead of in development, we get a nice, tightly wrapped story, you know? And in part 2, we get to fully understand Joseph. We don't just see a little bit, we get to fully understand how he works, his personality, instead of development. A trade-off, if you will. Which is one of the main reasons why, his son character change in part 3 is so drastic. And then get to see him come this way. He's just all of a sudden, oh, instead of we seeing him grow as a character, he's just a completely different person. Nothing to put a gap between, nothing like that. So, in this video today, I'm going to be explaining what I think part 3 should have been like, and then ranting more about JoJo. Because I don't want to make a separate video. Just want to put it. I probably have already done this, but I don't care. Anyways, I'm just going to start with the beginning, with Joseph going to Japan. Just not in a public airplane, in one of the Speedwagon airplanes. We see him open a case with a broken sword. Now, this is the same sword from part 1, the sword Jonathan used. He repairs it using a combination of Hormone and Hermit Purple, giving it a nice purple line around the entire design. And now it's able to better conduct Hormone. So that, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I don't care. So that it can easier, not only that, but if you notice, Dio has 2 stands. I think it would be, since Dio and Joseph are the only 2 recurring characters that have stands, I think it would be fitting to give them both 2 stands, a common trait. Though, it probably wouldn't make as much sense as Dio, since the world is his stand, but Hermit Purple is Jonathan's stand. That's why he has 2. But I think it could be, same reason. Hermit Purple is Jonathan's stand that he inherited, with the other stand being the one that he got. If you remember, I came up with the idea of Sunset Red as a stand, similar to Starset Platinum, but trading out precision with strength and speed. So he isn't as precise, but you can punch a bit harder and you can punch a bit faster. A tad bit faster, nothing like too groundbreaking. But also think all stands in general should be kind of nerfed. I think okay. So you know how a lot of times the user will put the stand's arm around theirs to make them hit harder? Here's how I'm going to put the strength test. Oh. If you hear Piper, that's because she's doing Piper things. But, okay, if they have their stance arm on theirs, therefore increasing their strength, they should be able, it's like a arm wrestle with Jonathan. The most powerful stands can maybe tie with Jonathan, but you also have to think his arms are the size of computer monitors. So, with maybe maybe 3 or 4 stands like the World, Starset Platinum, and maybe even Sunset Red being able to slightly overtake him, but only the most powerful stands, not every stand like it is in the show. I think that'd be a good way to kind of nerf everyone. Also, in part 3, they don't make Jotaro smart. They dumb down Joseph. With the other characters like Abdal and all that, we haven't seen them, so it's not that big of a deal if they're not as smart, But we've seen Joseph. He's one of the most cunning JoJos on the level of Dio. He's been able to beat 1,000-year-old men, outsmart beings on a higher level than humanity, the highest evolution. All he used was German science, and he was able to beat the Pillar Man. So I think we should, change that, make him not as small brain. Anyways, so we then cut to how it normally goes with Jotaro in prison, Joseph going up to meet him with Abdal, but instead of Abdal trying to get him out and basically failing, Joseph, only using Hermit Purple, basically kicks his butt because he's not an experienced stand user, Jotaro. While at this point in this series, Joseph is. So you take Hermit Purple, wrap it around his arms and legs, put him against the jail bars, and then right as he uses Starshot Platinum to punch him, he cuts off his breathing a bit, and right before it punches him in the face, it kind of vanishes, showing that just like hormone, stands are tied to breathing, which I think would be better used than what they did in the actual show, which they only used once. And then we cut to Joseph saying, "You're pretty strong to stand. Maybe even able to beat Dios at some point. But of course, you're not trained. You need some breathing techniques training." He goes, "Who's Dio?" All that, blah, blah, blah. He later explains that Dio is grandfather's, or his great-grandfather's half-brother, kind of. Not half, step-brother. And he was turned to a vampire and what turned out to live over 100 years. And that they don't know all too much about his stand, but they know since he stole their grandfather's body, that's how their stand's activated, and his stand has something to do with time. It's also incredibly powerful and goes by the name of the world. We don't know what it has to do with time, we just know it has something to do with it. That way they have something to expect, but also not something too crazy. Like, they don't know nothing, but they also don't know everything. And then most of the series got normal, but instead of Jotaro just kicking everyone's butt, like, he'd actually struggle sometimes, start character development at, like, episode 10 out of a 40 episode series. I think that's reasonable. And and then of course on final episode we know from day one what Sunset Red's stand ability is, and I call it Copycat. Basically, it can copy any other stand user's ability, but a weaker version. He needs to touch the actual stand or the stand user first before he can copy it. But other than that, it's his free domain. He can save 2 at once, and if he has a third, that he can only use it for an hour. And then we see what Starset Platinum's ability is, which is also Copycat, which explains how he's able to freeze time. Of course, he's had no training with it, so he can barely use it. But in part 4, we get to see him use it more, copying other people's stand's abilities. Like even Made in Heaven, I think the stand's name is. So that would just be a quick thing for part 3. I know it explained it terribly. But overall, I also think it'd be cool to see like I said, him pulling out the sword, him kind of using more of a sword type thing. The combination of Hermit Purple, Sunset Red, and the sword just kind of. He doesn't really use his main stand, but mainly Harmon and the sword. Every now and then he'll pull out Hermit Purple, and if it's really big, then he'll pull out his normal stand. That type of thing. He doesn't really like normal stands all that much. He prefers good old fashioned Harmon. But he will use it if time needs be, and he's still incredibly skilled with it. And here's the main thing I'm thinking of. Part 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They're not JoJo. Here, let me explain why. Part 1 and 2 show off this family throughout time, kinda, fighting vampires. With part 3 barely counting, since Dio is technically a vampire, so I'll allow it. It's Piper! Hey! Sorry about that. Hey! Sorry about that. Anyway. So in part 1, we get the setup of JoJo, Jonathan, fighting this Dio, vampire. Part 2, we get to see this more, with the Pillar Man. The stone mask, there's multiple hundreds, thousands, all that. And they made the vampires, basically. And Joseph defeats them. Part 3, we see Jotaro, Joseph, Abdal, and all them finally kill off, to their knowledge, the last semi-Pillar Man with Dio, since he technically used a stone mask. Which kind of made him Pillar Man, not really. Similar levels, but not as strong, and doesn't have his own little special ability, all that. Unless you count the stand, which I don't. But part 4, none of that. No vampires, no nothing. Part 5, no vampires, no nothing. He's not even a JoJo. He's not a Joestar, technically. He's a Dio's son. I know his name, but I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, because I know I'll butcher it. But he's not even technically a JoJo. Part 6 doesn't count as a vampire, but she is a JoJo, I think, yeah. And then part 7 and 8 take place in an entirely different timeline. I think this isn't JoJo now. Part 9 isn't going to be JoJo unless they have vampires and it's going to take place in their main universe, because it has been confirmed. But chances are it's going to take place in Universe 2, with no vampires. And the thing is, I really wouldn't care, since here soon 7 out of... Not 7, freaking 6 out of 9 parts don't have vampires, but this is what the series is built off of. It set up, okay, the Joestar family throughout time fighting these different vampires. Vampire hunters, basically. I think what they should have done is parts 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 can still exist, but I think parts 5, 7, and 8 should be their own little spin-off. Part 5 be its own little thing, with maybe a sequel to it, and part 7 and 8 being their own little spin-off, with part 9, if it's in that same universe, following it. But right now, this isn't JoJo. Or at least the same JoJo that was started off with. I think after they put 5, 7, and 8, maybe 9 in their own universe, I think what he should have done, manga writer, is not redone, but made parts, what we know as 4 and 6, about vampire hunters, JoJo's. Still same characters and all that, but just add vampires. Maybe I don't know his name, but Made in Heaven guy, maybe he used his stone mask, create his own little army. You know? It's just, this isn't JoJo. I'm sure they're great, since I haven't watched them yet, or at part 5 or 4. Haven't watched that yet, and I know Sitz is going to get anime, but hasn't yet. I'm not saying that they're bad, or they don't need to exist. I'm just saying they should fit JoJo. Yes, there's more without vampires than vampires, but it's built on vampires. This show was originally, or manga was originally meant to be the Joestar family throughout time fighting the Stone Mask. And though Jotaro, technically speaking, isn't a Joestar, he's referred to multiple times as a Joestar. Overall, I just think this hopefully will be my last video on this, but who knows. But overall, I just hope Part 9 follows the same thing. Not same exact formula, but kind of stands are fine. I'm fine with stands. I just wish they would have given Harmon a more peaceful goodbye, since they've had, here's soon 7 parts with stands, but only 2 with Harmon, even though they just introduced a new form of Harmon at the very end of Part 2. Whatever. I still like the idea of stands. It's pretty cool. I also think that... You know what? No. Okay. This has probably been a mess, but I don't care. If you can decipher what I just said in this video, I'll give you a round of applause. That's all. Hopefully this will be the last time I rant about JoJo in general. This is Ken Kyle. I'm going to say, this will be my new saying from now on. Give me your money.